Portion of the morning hour is reserved for member requests for points of personal privilege.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, some of you were asking me why I had on my desk today a pair of comfortable women's footwear. It's not for me to wear. These are, I think a lot of them are called these thongs or whatever. A lot of people call these flip-flops, Mr. Speaker. And so I've got a pair of flip-flops because I was reading the morning clips and I noticed that Politifact and VPM had noticed the flip, actually I think they rated it a full flop, that House Republicans now in power had made on the issue of campaign finance reform, and in particular, the personal use of campaign funds. And so I know nobody wants to be rated a full flop on Politifact or in the paper. It's always embarrassing when that happens. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation somewhere that we can hear about that. But Mr. Speaker, members of the House, really, this is so that, Mr. Speaker, you yourself don't get awarded a pair of golden flip-flops when it comes time to vote on the rules change that was read for the first time yesterday and will be read for the second time this afternoon. Because what I have also before me, Mr. Speaker, is House Resolution 140 from the 2020 session of the Virginia General Assembly. That session, as you may recall, Mr. Speaker, then Delegate Gilbert put in 2 pieces of legislation the entire session. One piece of legislation was a memorial resolution. The other piece of legislation that he thought was important enough to get in was House Resolution 140, which changed the rules of the House, and Rule 81 specifically, to allow for the discharge of House bills and House resolutions. So, Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I know that you all won't flip-flop when it comes time to vote on this important rules change. So we put this rules change in again, and by the way, before anybody says, well, what are you, Delegate Simon? I think you're flipping and flopping on this too. I put in the same exact piece of legislation in 2019. Never spoke against it. We never voted against it in 2020. Time ran out. In fact, we ended up doing the right thing, I think. Well, I don't know if it was the right thing or not, but we ended up doing the thing, which was we had a constitutional amendment that you all were worried would be buried in committee, despite the fact that there were enough votes on this floor, you suspected, to pass it. And so House Resolution 140 was put in to change the rules to make sure, should that happen, the will of the body would have an opportunity to be heard on that House, that joint resolution. Now, Mr. Speaker, we have this year not one but 2 constitutional amendments that passed this House with bipartisan support. We have a House resolution, a House joint resolution, a second reference to change the Constitution, introduced by a member of your caucus that has the support to pass, should it get to the floor of this House. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, when you all vote, not today, not tomorrow, but I think Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, the 5th day, the first day following the 5th day, you're going to have an opportunity to vote on this resolution, which you introduced and which you all supported, and you'll have an opportunity to give all the members of this House the opportunity to vote to send these resolutions to the voters of Virginia, and let the voters of Virginia have the final say on whether our Constitution will be modified to repeal the backward, outdated, repulsive Marshall-Newman Amendment, and whether we will do what a lot of folks on both sides of the aisle say they think is an important thing to do, and make sure that returning citizens have the right to vote automatically in our state constitution. These are 2 very weighty and important issues. These are issues that have a majority support in the Commonwealth, a majority support in this chamber, and a majority support in the General Assembly. You have an opportunity to be consistent. You have an opportunity to do the right thing, not to flip and flop like you've done on some other issues. But let's stay consistent. Let's vote yes when we have the opportunity to vote on this rules change. Let's have a vote on whether we're going to have a vote on these resolutions. Let's get them to the floor, and let's send them to the people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.